Rhythm games. Let me start off by saying I am far from being a rhythm game expert. There are so many really popular, very fun rhythm games out there like Taiko no Tatsujin, Geometry Dash, Beat Saber, even something like Guitar Hero. But the games I want to talk about today are rhythm games that I feel like go above and beyond. They're games that expand upon just hitting a beat on a cue and having a really good soundtrack. These games have a strong emphasis on rhythm, but expand upon it in really unexpected and interesting ways. So let's talk about my favorite rhythm games that go beyond the beat. First, let's talk about Sayonara Wild Hearts. This is an Annapurna game that came out in 2019. What made this game so special for me is that I feel it really hit the nail on the head with three core components of a great game for me, which is story, symbolism, and sound. Let's get the gameplay out of the way. So the gameplay for Sayonara Wild Hearts is sort of like Temple Run or a Subway Surfers style. You're just driving forward and you use the joystick to move back and forth to try and collect heart coins. And it sounds really simple, and it is, but it's so much more than that. The rhythmic elements in the gameplay are that sometimes there's quick time events where you have to press a button on the beat, and other times it's just easier to collect the coins if you're going along with the rhythm of the song. There are 23 levels total, and each level has its own unique track. And if you die in a level, what's so great about this is you just kind of start over again at a checkpoint, and the levels aren't even that long, so the checkpoint usually isn't even that far behind. And then if you keep failing on a level, which the levels aren't that hard, but if you keep failing, it will give you the option to skip that section so you can still enjoy the game in full, even if you're not super skilled at it. So let's talk about the story of Sayonara Wild Hearts. This is a love story, I think. The story is so interpretable. There are so many fan theories out there about what it's talking about. You go through several phases of the main character's life, through love and loss and heartbreak and acceptance. I've seen people interpret this story as being about depression, about breakups, relationships, self-growth, just about anything you can think of. This game has affected people in so many different ways. My general interpretation of the story is that you're experiencing 5 different stages of the main character's life, and each stage is concluded by a song called Heartbreak. There are 5 heartbreaks. And so I like to interpret it as different relationships because there are 5 different main characters, but as any good piece of art, it really is up to interpretation. And even though I don't understand the full scope of the story or what the artist meant by everything, I still feel like the story is super profound and it really feels like an adventure across somebody's life. And this game is filled to the brim with symbolism and metaphors. It's a very, very poetic game. There's this level called Parallel Universes, for example, and the character you're fighting, who I choose to interpret as one of their exes, is like split in 2. And as you're driving down the road, the perspective of what is in front of you changes on every beat. So you have to kind of remember and predict what's gonna be in front of you based on the timing of the level. But I interpreted this as a metaphor for a relationship where you're constantly dodging curveballs and attacks and you don't know what to predict what's coming next. Or maybe it's like a partner who keeps like switching up on you. Or some people have even interpreted this as a representation of bipolar disorder. But my favorite part of the game involves a character called Little Death. I interpret the Little Death arc as the most toxic relationship the character goes through in the entire game. You encounter Little Death in a level called Transonic Gravity, which literally involves riding a motorcycle on a very narrow bridge to meet with Little Death, who then blasts electricity across the entire level, which could represent like a big spark in the relationship, I don't know. And then you must follow their every move between electric barriers because they're so strong that if you touch the spark, it will fry you. This level flips you upside down, it spins you around, it is incredibly disorienting, just like a toxic relationship. And then it ends with a Hanged Man tarot card. Now each level has several associations with tarot cards. I think the entire major arcana is in the game. And so if you know tarot, that's really fun for you. I am not super well versed in that, so I can't really make any claims. But the Hanged Man, I've learned, can represent sacrifice in a relationship and seeing things from a new perspective. And maybe I'm reading between the lines here, but I feel like that really makes sense with everything I just said. And then this level is followed by a level called Hate Skulls, where you are literally being shot at by skulls that represent the hatred that this person has towards you or that you have towards this person. And then you get to play the level inside. This song is an absolute masterpiece. Like one of my favorite songs ever. I think it was like my most played song last year. And this level has everything. It has Little Death coming at you with a scythe. It's got the hate skulls attacking you. And then Little Death turns into this horrific monster. Like the signs could not be clearer that you need to run. But what is our main character doing? She is running towards Little Death and she is still fighting because what is the last song called? Wild Hearts Never Die. What more can I say? I mean, that's art. Anyways, this game is so incredibly rich. You could analyze the themes in it forever, so I'm gonna move on to the soundtrack. So you got all this set to, I'm not even exaggerating, one of the greatest hyperpop albums of all time, and it is banger after banger. I cannot recommend this album enough. So you pair this amazing soundtrack with neon, psychedelic visuals, and a lesbian love story, and this game becomes an experience. It is so much more than just a rhythm game. The next game I've been dying to talk about is Rhythm Heaven, which I actually have right here. Rhythm Heaven, my most prized possession. And I'm gonna put you right. Oh my god. I don't know what that was. So there are a few games in the Rhythm Heaven series, but I'm gonna talk about this one, the one for the DS, because it's the one that I grew up with. If you haven't played Rhythm Heaven, you don't understand how unique this game is. I don't know any, not just rhythm game, I don't know any game that is like Rhythm Heaven. I've tried really hard to find something that scratches that same itch. I just can't. Closest thing I can think of is like WarioWare, because I think some of the levels were designed by the same people. Rhythm Heaven is a collection of very short rhythm mini games, which are all incredibly silly and incredibly unique. You start with one minigame and then you unlock the rest as you go, and there is really no way of predicting what the next one is gonna be. They're all insane. One second you're a photographer on a racetrack, next second you're a gardener picking root vegetables, and then the next second you're a bunch of geese, and then you're an Easter Island head getting pooped on, and then you're this dumpling clown guy. I don't even know what this is. But somehow the songs are all so unique. I keep using the word unique, but that's really like, I just can't compare it to anything else. But all the songs are just so catchy and fun and upbeat. And there have been so many times where I have a specific Rhythm Heaven song stuck in my head and I just have to pick up my DS and play it so that I can get it out of there. And as opposed to Sayonara Wild Hearts, Rhythm Heaven has absolutely no story. There is no reason any of this is happening. The thing about this game too is that it's actually really difficult at some points, but the difficulty scales pretty well, I feel like. And Rhythm Heaven is the only game where I will work and work and work at a level until I get it exactly perfect. And then even once I've perfected it, I still sometimes come back to those levels just for the fun of it. Rhythm Heaven is a buffet of colorful and fun rhythm games that are bite-sized. You can play it on the bus, and depending on how you're feeling, you can pick a really easy one that you know super well or challenge yourself and try to get perfect. So let's take a look at one of Rhythm Heaven's most iconic minigames called Glee Club. In this game, you play as a little choir boy, isn't he cute? And you have to hold the stylus down on the screen to keep his mouth shut, and then you let go to open his mouth. And then the two other choir boys on screen will kind of give you the cue for when it's your turn to sing. And then there's also a conductor who sometimes will give a cue for you to flick your stylus, and then you will all release a note at the same time. So you're supposed to just be on the cue for the choir boys and then on the cue for the conductor. Together now. And it's all very cute. And Glee Club has a sequel that you unlock later called Glee Club 2, which expands upon what you learned in Glee Club and makes it more difficult. It's the same song, but the beats you're supposed to hit are a little bit shorter and a little bit more complex. And what's great is that in order to do well in Glee Club 2, I feel like you have to really understand the rhythm in Glee Club 1. And so it makes you want to kind of get perfect on that one first so that you know what you're doing when it gets to the second one. But you don't have to. You can also just play through all of them at whatever pace you want, however you want. And what makes Rhythm Heaven go above and beyond for me is that it really doesn't take itself seriously at all. It's really just for fun. And I know you could argue that about pretty much any game, but it's literally called Rhythm Heaven. You're in this happy little world where every single activity has a little rhythm to it and a fun little beat, little mini game, and there are no stakes. You can lose if you want. It's okay. It's fun. You're just having fun. Although the judge at the end who tells you if you did well or not can sometimes be super brutal. It told me to kill myself. Now we're going to talk about a rhythm game that just came out, December 2025. We have Unbeatable. Now, Unbeatable, I feel like goes above and beyond in terms of stylistic choices. And this game definitely has some flaws, which I will talk about. I definitely will talk about the flaws, but first I want to talk about how the design elements of Unbeatable really made it stand out for me. So in the arcade mode of this game, you have a huge selection of titles, and they're all really, really good. They're all very fun, and the gameplay is pretty standard for a rhythm game, but the visuals are just really what hooked me in. It's vibrant, it's funky, it's almost like a visualization of the music genre that they're trying to replicate. Like, I just find this game very visually impressive, and it's a great experience to go along with the music. I would highly recommend the arcade mode of this game. However, this game also has a story mode, which I was super excited to try out, because if the story mode was good, I mean, this could be a perfect rhythm game. It's got great music, it's got great visuals, and the story was super intriguing to me. It takes place in a world where music is illegal. You play as a group of young criminals in this world trying to fight for their right to make music. Sounds like an awesome idea for a story. I was really hyped. But I'm sad to admit that even though I've had this game for a couple months, I have yet to complete the story mode. I found the pacing to be very slow. It was a lot of forced dialogue and boring mini games with like a few rhythm games sprinkled throughout. There were honestly barely any rhythm elements in the story mode. And because I tried the story mode before I even tried the arcade mode, I found these rhythm games to be incredibly disorienting. There were a lot of overlapping patterns, and the visuals actually worked against the game so that I felt like I was constantly losing. And when you don't beat the song on your first try because, I don't know, it's your first time hearing this song ever, you don't get to retry it. The game just continues, and I found that to be incredibly unsatisfying. And look, I appreciate what they're trying to do here. I love a political story, but without even mentioning the bugs and the janky camera work that I encountered, the story mode just wasn't it for me. But before abandoning this game completely, I checked out the arcade mode and I really liked it. I still think this game holds up just with that alone because the visuals are just so captivating. I can see myself spending many more hours in this game, just probably not on the story mode. So those are some rhythm games that really stood out to me and I feel went beyond their format. I really do love making these videos, and so thank you so much for your support. If you have any topics that you'd like to see me cover next, please leave a comment down below. Don't forget to subscribe, and thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.